unsportsmanlike.
The Boston Celtics are champions of the NBA as they defeat the Dallas Mavericks in 5 games, 106-88.
We have to play our best basketball. Unfortunately, Boston was better than us in this series, and they won the championship.
I'm proud of every guy that's up on the floor, all the coaches. Obviously, we didn't win finals, but we did have a hell of a season.
I see an opportunity for us to really build our future in a positive manner where, this is almost like a regular thing for us.
Boston Celtics winning their 18th championship last night.
Ooh, 18. That's more than the Lakers, right?
Nantucket Smalls.
That's right. Shout out to Mass. I dress like I'm from Nantucket today.
Yeah, and it feels like they're going to put more room between them and the Lakers when it comes to ring count in the foreseeable future.
That's what it feels like. There's no question about that.
Magic Johnson not pleased that the Boston Celtics have pulled ahead. Saw the tweet last night.
Nantucket Smalls, by the way, just because for those listening on the radio, Smalls has a green sweater, cardigan, however you want to say it, thrown over the shoulder. Nantucket Smalls. That's what it is today as she's celebrating Boston. By the way, before we get to the Mavs, 2 things happened moments ago. Number one, normally when we get feedback on the show, it happens when it's done and we have conversation. Yeah. CeCe was getting air checked, is what we call it in the business, during the last segment, during the break, because you claim you've had no hate today.
No hate.
And you literally shot down Joe Mazzulla praise.
How is it hate?
I had a slip-in comment about how fascinated I was by his knowledge of Peyton Pritchard's half-court shots. And you said, he's got to do it next year.
Well, first of all, the Boston Celtics were phenomenal in the quarter, end of half last night.
And that matters.
The end of the first quarter, going on a 10-0 run. I mean, toward the end of the second quarter, being able to go on, I think it was a 12-3 run or a 13-2 run, whatever it was. Like, their ability to create momentum for themselves at the end of quarters and end of half were huge in this series. It was big all throughout the playoffs. And so I thought that's really where the game was won and lost last night. And for them to win in a closeout game and lead wire to wire, that is really impressive. Mm-hmm. You would think that a team facing elimination would show a little more desperation. Not to say that the Dallas Mavs weren't desperate, not to say that they didn't have any hustle, because they did. It was a situation where the Celtics just wanted it more. And this is, as Smalls had talked about earlier, that huge championship, the weight of the world coming off of the Celtics, particularly Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. With the Joe Mazzulla bit, I will say this. We had a lot of pressure on him after his first year last year.
No doubt.
There was a ton of pressure. We were like, I don't know if this is the guy. They got, it didn't go so well for them. It wasn't competitive in the conference finals. They were down 3-0, even though they forced the Game 7. It never really felt like they were a threat to the Miami Heat, ever. And so for that team to have that kind of talent and to lose in that fashion to a team that was in the play-in in the Miami Heat, we were wondering whether or not Joe Mazzulla could get these guys to where they wanted to go. And he did, but I will say this. I think Brad Stevens deserves more credit for what he did in terms of reshaping the roster, moving on from 2 top 6 players in Marcus Smart and Robert Williams from a year ago, and bringing in Kristaps Porzingis, who was a 20-point-a-night scorer this season, and bringing in Drew Holiday, a champion, to kind of impart that wisdom, that secret sauce to this group to take them to that next level. That's why I say I will give Joe Mazzulla credit for not getting in the way, but that's where my Joe Mazzulla praise stops today.
By the way, let me add one other thing to your Brad Stevens argument, which I'm all in on and how great he is. Yeah. I'll add one other name. Malcolm Brogdon won 6th Man of the Year last year, and he traded him too.
Yeah, we can get him up out of here.
I mean, it's unbelievable. The other thing is a poll question.
I feel bad for my guy. He's a UVA guy. I feel bad for that.
I love Malcolm Brogdon when he's healthy. Yeah. That's the problem. He's not always healthy. The other thing, we put the poll question up at Unsports ESPN at Evco Radio. Would you give up all of your teeth to win a championship? Because Derek White did it last night. He slammed his face head to ground, and his teeth were basically falling out.
And I'm glad you bring that up, though, man, because it happened at the end of the second quarter. And for people saying, well, the Celtics were just a more talented team, they didn't want it more. Yeah, they did want it more. Yeah. Derek White was the first to the floor.
He gave his
first to the floor.
Literally.
Like, he beat Derek Lively to the floor, and then, of course, he gets his face smashed into the court trying to get after a loose ball. Ends up being a breakaway layup for Jaylen Brown. He wanted it more. Mm-hmm. The Celtics wanted it more. So let's not sit here and do this whole thing where we say, oh, it is just a mentally talented team and they were just superior to everybody else. Yeah, they're a talented team. Nobody is saying that they're not. But they actually wanted it more. And you see that play out in all of the 50-50 balls, all of the hustle plays, all of the things that don't show up in the stat sheet, the things that are in the margins that really equate to winning. They did all of those things this year. Mm-hmm. They did. And that was the difference for the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals going up against the Dallas Mavs.
All right, let's talk about the Mavs part of this. Kyrie was awful in every game at Boston. We thought maybe he was trying to put that chip on his shoulder by calling out the fans. They weren't as loud as I thought they would be. They're a cult, et cetera, et cetera. He completely crumbled against Boston. Luka is an all-time great offensive player. Luka needs to get better in terms of the defense. But as we see Luka in his first NBA Finals, do we look at him as this is first of many, or this is, for lack of a better description, Dan Marino style and one and done? Hall of Fame caliber, but I don't know that I could see him getting back there.
I think that's up to him. I think after,
well, I'm sure he'd choose to go back.
But after this Finals, I think that he is going to have to take a big look in the mirror, and he's going to have to say, what do I need to do to better myself? What do I need to do to make myself an all-around, more complete player? Because he is all-time great in so many ways. But I think this Finals also highlighted some deficiencies for Luka. And I just look at the composition of the West, and it's going to be really tough to be in contention consistently there. But Luka is so great, and Dallas has a lot of pieces. So I do think that they can get back there. But I think so much of it has to do with Luka and his dedication. But the Celtics are the perfect example. They had patience. They had been there, had that heartbreak. They recalibrated. They doubled down, dedicated themselves even more, and then they're back, and they finally break through. So I think Luka can absolutely get it done. He's that talented.
He's not winning a championship as the leader of a team. He's not. Now, let me be clear about this. I'm not saying that he can't win a championship as the best player on a team. He's not winning a championship as the leader of the team. Luka Doncic is more Kevin Durant than he is Dirk Nowitzki. So for everybody that's saying, oh, just stay the course, it took Dirk a while to break through. Yeah, it took Dirk a while to break through, but we never had questions about Dirk's work ethic. We never had questions about Dirk taking care of his body. There were questions about Dirk developing his body to be able to withstand the physicality of the NBA, but there was never a question of his willingness to be able to do that. There was never a question about, Dirk Nowitzki's commitment, in the offseason to doing all of the things to improve himself as a player, to work on his deficiencies, and to come back the next season as a better player. We got all those questions on the board for Luka, and then beyond that, just the mental aspect of it, complaining to the refs while the game is actually taking place. Like being engaged in that fight as opposed to trying to best your opponent. And so when we have the conversation about Luka being all-time great and a guy being 25 years old and knowing how skilled, how gifted he is on the offensive end, I would counter that to, yeah, but I need Luka Doncic to be a leader, to get everybody else to buy into a team-first agenda, to not complain when it suits you against the referees and to actually focus on the controllables. We haven't seen enough of that from Luka Doncic. Now, there are going to be a lot of people out there that says, well, Luka's not healthy. He was dealing with the knee strain. He was dealing with something with his core. Yeah, you know what? A big part of the job as being a professional athlete is making sure you're healthy and available. And a big part of that is your discipline during the regular season and the offseason to taking care of your body. Your body is your business as a professional athlete, and that has always been a question mark for Luka Doncic. And so I have serious questions about whether or not Luka is going to be able to have that same career trajectory that we saw Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum just go through, where you go through the hard knocks, where you have the heartbreak in the conference finals or the NBA finals, and you finally break through. I have serious doubts about Luka's ability to do that, not because of his skill set, but more because of his sports character.
Obviously, a lot more on that. I think people are going to hear that and maybe think, oh, my God, he's insulting him. He literally just said he can win a championship. Just be clear on that. It's just
Kevin Durant won a championship, but he had to leave and go somewhere that had a championship culture.
Yeah.
What I am saying is that Luka Doncic, as the leader, is not going to establish a championship culture.
And that is off of this a fair question to ask. Absolutely. No doubt about that. Finals are over. Mavs are going to be traveling. Maybe